Research shows that the most wanted trait in significant others, family, and friends is humor. It's also been proven to boost heart health, improve memory, and ease physical pain. So how do you get better at it? Today in this video, I'm going to go over why you should improve your humor, what makes things funny so you can understand it better, as well as how you can start to apply it to your daily life. We humans are pretty much social creatures. We discuss, support, argue, and work together no matter what it may be. Whether it be from social media, from work, just hanging out. Pretty much to some degree, we're always involved around other people. Now, humor itself is pretty much the most social activity there is. Think about the last time you're dying and crying from laughter. For girls, that's pretty much when you almost pee your pants. I know they say that a lot. Now think about it. Were you with other people? Odds are probably. Now, it feels kind of obvious when you think about it, but why? Researchers believe that this is a group mechanism for group cohesion. Basically, it's a system that humans have developed in order to create a sense of bonding between each other. This is why sometimes when one person laughs, it can be pretty contagious and everyone can start laughing from it. Laughing is very contagious. Now, when we laugh, it lets everyone know that we're experiencing mirth, which basically just means, joy and amusement. Sometimes strong laughter can be the main reason why people are laughing in the first place, and it amplifies this feeling and spreads it to everyone else. Now, think about your favorite comedian. It could be Kevin Hart, Seth Rogen, or another big one nowadays is Matt Rife. He's been blowing up everywhere lately. Now, when we think about comedians that we love, you gotta think about why you love them, and that's because they make us laugh. And laughing is one of the best feelings in the world, if you really think about it. People, they don't remember situations or conversations as much as they remember how you make them feel. So if you can make people laugh, they're gonna remember you as a good time, and being able to make them laugh and give them joy is a great feeling, both for you and for them. It's also been analyzed that humor gives us a sense of safety, which is very important for Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Hanging around with people and just laughing and letting loose and messing around and having a good time, goofing off, you wouldn't be doing that if you weren't safe and if you weren't in a good space where you feel comfortable. This could be why humor is just so desirable in a partner. You can hear people saying all the time nowadays that humor is necessary. It makes you feel safe, it makes you happy and feel joy, it makes you feel entertained or entertaining, and it makes things a lot more easygoing and less stressful. So now that you know the benefits of humor, here are what behavior analysts believe to be what makes things funny. They have this theory, and it's called the benign violent theory. Now, according to it, 3 conditions have to be met in order for something to be funny. The first one is that the situation has to be a violation. By violation, they mean anything that threatens the way that you would normally react to a certain situation. An example would be maybe when you have to go to the bathroom. Instead of walking, maybe you do that little waddle because it's about to slip out. The point I'm getting at here is basically that it's not normal and you don't see that every day. The second situation that is required is that the situation has to be benign. And benign basically means that the situation is not that serious or gentle and kind. To add on to that, basically, it just means you can't make a joke too mean, otherwise it's just gonna come off as rude and insensitive. If one of your friends tried doing a backflip and you dared them to, and then they tried doing that gator and they end up breaking something on the dock, you definitely shouldn't be making a joke about it if they broke something serious. Then they're just gonna hate you. You can maybe make jokes about it in a couple of months, or if the situation is psychologically distant. A great example of how to make something more psychologically distant is to try and make it not about in the present tense, but more in the future tense. So it's not as invasive and you don't have to think about doing it now. Quick side note, for national tragedies or major events, typically there is a 17-day latency period for when it's okay to make jokes about it. But nowadays, I can't promise that. Because if you look at the whole situation not too long ago with the submarine going down to the Titanic, I'm sure, as you guys also saw, there's plenty of memes literally coming out the next day. Probably within right as soon as the news came out, honestly. So I don't know if it might just depend on the generation. So it's up to you. And it could just depend on the jokes that you're making about it too. Anyways, on to the third condition that has to be met, which is basically that 1 and 2 have to coexist together at the same moment. A great example of this all coming together would be, think about when you are walking with your friend and all of a sudden they just eat shit and fall to the ground, but they don't get hurt that serious, so then you can just chuckle about it. If you remove one or the other, if they end up eating shit and it's serious, you can't laugh about that. It's not as funny, as well as if they don't eat shit that bad, it's not gonna be as funny. Now, the three main skills of humor, besides knowing what makes things funny, the benign violent theory, is 1, share your point of view as through your eyes and thoughts of what's going to happen or happened. 2, explore and heighten your point of view. In other words, really just deepen your point of view and your thoughts, maybe become more animated and just more facial expressions. And the third one is to practice, perform, and repeat. Just like anything else, humor can be improved upon as long as you work at it. You can learn from comedians and from other people around you and just from yourself over time what you find funny. I know saying that out loud to yourself, or me saying that out loud right now, maybe sounds kind of sad maybe, but I don't want you to think of it like that at all. I encourage you to think of it as just a way of trying to improve your humor, not that you don't have any, and not because you have to or need to, it's just because you want to. We all have a good sense of humor, and we're all just different, and that makes sense because we're all very different people. Basically, by working on it, I mean that you're just working on amplifying and expressing it more so other people can also understand and laugh with you. Working on it is just you working on expressing yourself so other people can come to realize and understand your humor even better than before. Now, the first thing you really gotta do is really just analyze your audience. You're not gonna be making the same jokes as you are to your parents and vice versa. Some good advice that Peter Mcgraw brings up in his TED Talk, which if you guys wanna learn more about that, I'll link everything down in the description below, so go ahead and check that out if you wanna learn even more, is that everybody has a good sense of humor. You just really have to analyze and pay attention to the circumstances. This is really crucial if you're trying to really make some good jokes. Some great advice that Andrew Tarvin, a different TED Talk video that is also gonna be down in the description, is how he basically just says to explore and heighten. The key to this is just to be curious about others and ask questions like and if, to suggest situations that might not happen, but you can use your imagination and add on to it so you can get to know more about people. Questions that you ask can be funny too. Making fun of yourself in a lighthearted way is also great, as it's safe because you know it's you, so you can talk about and joke about whatever you're comfortable with, and you can bring up points that maybe no one else would bring up otherwise. There's a reason why comedians do this so often, and that's because they know it's safe. And nowadays they also have to worry about getting canceled. So again, if you're gonna make jokes online at all, just make sure that hopefully you won't get canceled. So make sure it's not too violent, basically. Some other tips are to be lighthearted and not overthink it too much. And if you're way too nervous at first and you don't want to be saying things out loud, just start thinking about it in your head when something comes up that's funny and chuckle about it to yourself instead. That's okay. Then eventually, or when you're around people that you're comfortable with, then try to start saying it out loud. Humor can also be a great way to vent out your problems and express yourself and explain what's going on in your life so you can be heard, and it's also a great way to have people more interested in listening to your problems that are going on. Timing can be another key component, so don't forget about that either. You know, if you're in the moment and talking about the situation then, like right after something happens, or maybe just a little bit right after, sometimes that's gonna be a lot better than if you say it, 10 minutes later. Or sometimes in other cases, maybe it is that way. You're not gonna talk about an awkward situation with people maybe not till after. Not in front of them, I hope. Now, the biggest takeaway of all of this is, of course, that you have humor for yourself. If you make the mindset choice of looking around at the world and thinking it as a funnier and lighthearted place and not as serious, life's gonna be a lot easier. Now, it all starts with a choice, really. A choice to be funny and to be lighthearted and to really make the most of things and not take things that serious. And if you do this, I'm not saying you're not already, but it really can allow to let you see the world in a whole different perspective. Also, don't be afraid of making bad jokes, because honestly, even if you do make a couple bad jokes here and there, it's gonna be completely okay. The world's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be all right. And if anything, sometimes even if you make a bad joke, it's still gonna be funny because it's a bad joke. So trust me, people will still laugh. So the only thing I would say to that, if at first you're not as comfortable and with people around you, you don't have to force yourself. And also just depends on the vibe and the atmosphere. You really gotta read that as well. Again, don't forget to make things more benign, especially if it's too violent, because then otherwise you're just gonna come off as rude. If it does happen, you make a bad joke, it doesn't hit, no one's laughing, that's all right. Just move on from it. Just don't dwell on it for too long, because it's all gonna be all right. Extra couple of bonus tips I have is just to really, first of all, just highlight everyday normal situations and what's wrong with them. If the situation might be a little bit too violent, try to make it more benign. A great way to do this, remember again, is to add a psychological distance so it's not as closely related and it doesn't seem as invasive. A couple different examples besides just time that I mentioned earlier is you can use physical space, you can use relationships, and you can use imagination. Now, a great study that goes over a great example of this is a study done by the HURL lab, which stands for Human Research Lab. And they examined this in a study with a bunch of undergraduate students. So they had two different images. The first one was a guy with a finger going through his eye, and the second one was a guy with a frozen beard. The students rated the image that was a lot more disturbing, the guy with the finger in his eye, a lot less disturbing and a lot more humorous when they were told that it was fake. They also found that when they told the students in the other picture of the frozen beard that when it was real, they also found that more funny than if it was fake. So basically, you have to find a sweet spot for both depending on the situation and just how violent it is. Making sure you adjust and find the good sweet spot in between is really the key to humor in the first place, and how you really find a good mix in between. And now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably how the people with the submarine jokes did it, because they can make different jokes, not about the victims themselves, but about the situation instead, which is really what I think a lot of people focused on when that first happened. So if you're gonna make a joke about a national tragedy or something or event, especially if it's more recent, try to think about satiring more of the situation than the victims. You're gonna be able to make new connections with people a lot easier. You're gonna be able to increase your connections and have a better time, even more, have more laughs with the people you love, and most importantly, yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please consider subscribing for more content like this. And also consider liking the video. If you have any questions or comments, seriously, this is my first video, so please feel free to comment any questions. I will respond. My name is Aiden, but feel free to call me Ale, as it's a lot easier to remember, and that's pretty much what most people call me. Have a great rest of your guys' day, and stay positive, and remember, just enjoy life, because we only have one, so make the most of it. Go out there and make people laugh.